So first of all, welcome to all of you. I just want to introduce myself as a starting point. My name is Lasse, and I am one of the owners of Increase. I have been working with marketing automation and customer life cycles for the last 8 or 10 years. Pioneered this market in the Nordics with the Eloqua platform, the technology behind customer life cycles. So a little bit of housekeeping also, just to finish that off. On your little webinar app, you have the possibility to ask questions and comment different elements. Please do that as we go along. I'll try to see if I can answer questions where it fits into the agenda. But my good friend, our marketing manager, David, has given me 30 minutes to cover something that probably should take, I don't know, 3-4 hours in total. So I'm going to be really fast speaking today, and naturally with the time I have available, then we can't go too much into the details. However, we will cover how you should be mapping your customer's life cycle, how you can identify the quick wins that are actually there for most of us to engage with, and also I'm going to show you how you could enable this, really implement the first part of a customer life cycle in a real life scenario. So I'm going to log into the Eloqua platform and show you also how this actually could be done. So I can see people still popping in, but we're just going to continue on our journey together and push forward. So just a few short elements, so people that doesn't know who we are, you get a feel of that also. Company called Increase. We are about 32 resources. We work out of the Nordics with focus on all of the Nordic countries. We've been awarded Specialized Partner of the Year a number of times from Oracle. And we spend all of our time working with customers, our customers, with the automated marketing agenda. So I guess for us, it's really this is the live bread of our company. We do nothing else. We're only focused on these two elements. Yeah, we work with a ton of different companies, and my good friend David just told me that while I'm switching the screen, you guys can't see me switching the screen, so I'll just try and do like this. Oh, here we go. Thanks a lot. All right, so a number of different customers we work with, blah, blah, blah. So we're not going to spend too much time on who we are. Just remember we're a company that works with these sort of technologies in the Nordics, and about 32 resources, mainly enterprise and mid-size companies. Okay, so as I mentioned before, 4 things that we're going to try to cover in 30 minutes. That leaves not much time to each of these different elements, but we're going to do a good pitch on this. And as I said before, also feel free to interrupt with a question if you have anything as we go along. I might place it until the end of the session, so people that has questions will have all of them answered if I can't manage during the session. Okay, so when we look at the customer life cycle and communication in regards to the customer life cycle, I think there's 4 main pillars that are really relevant for us to discuss today. One is how do we actually map our customer life cycle, and another thing is when we have our customer life cycle mapped, how can we design quick wins? Because as we all know, the times are not here for long-term projects that we're going to launch something in the end of 2016. By the way, dear CEO, it's going to cost us 2 million euros, etc. Times are not for that anymore. So we need to be able to design and find the quick wins within the customer life cycle. Then we also need to enable this. So how do we really get these customer life cycles out to our customers and not stay on a whiteboard somewhere in a creative agency? And the last part is how do we do analysis based on these customer life cycles. Now again, with regards to time, we're going to focus on the 3 first ones. But before we do that, I just also want to take a step back. And as you all know, it's not a new thing that the customer's journey has changed. And I attend a lot of webinars and seminars with our colleagues in the industry and different vendors, etc., that also are engaged in this market. And it seems to be the same story everybody is telling. The customer's buying process has changed radically over the last years. They search and it's all online and it's out of reach of the salesperson. And I really feel like just saying blah blah blah. We've heard that story so many times. I'm not sure that you guys have not heard this before. I'm sure you have. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time telling you about all of the percentages that document that customers are going online and they're searching and all of this stuff. So my approach to this instead is let's try to speed this up a little bit. Customer lifecycle projects, they don't have to be 12-month strategic, high cost, high complexity projects that goes to a complex omni-channel, multi-segmented, ultra personalized, we want to win awards customer journeys. There's so much stuff that we can do actually just by focusing on the quick wins that are out there. So before we kick this off, I'd like to ask you all a question. I hope you take time just to quickly reply to this. I'm going to launch a quick poll in just a second. So I'd like to know how many of you have a fully automated and trigger-based introduction campaign to new subscribers. So I go on your website and I subscribe to your newsletter for the first time, that introduce your customers to your company and your services. So I'd like to know how many of you actually have that implemented today. So I'm going to launch this poll for you right now. And if you take time just to quickly reply to that, then in 1 second we'll be able to see how many of you actually have that. You can see a number of you have already replied. There's a huge to one of them. I see 71% of you have voted. Let's just get the last ones in, and then we can launch the result of this. So you had three options of answering. We have 15% that said, just going to show you this. We had 15% that says yes, completely automated an introduction campaign. 30% that said, well, a little bit, but then again, not really. And then more than half of you said, no, that's why I'm here, you idiot. So I guess if we consolidate this a little bit, then you would have just about 80% of you that still have not just implemented a fully automated standard introduction to your services and to your company. So if we think about this from the perspective of this of projects, I think one of the things that we need our customers really to think about when you engage in these sort of projects is how do you want to approach a project like this? And I think there's two different ways that we see these projects being rolled out. One would be the strategic analysis of how should our customer journeys really look like. And the other more fast-moving way is based on the internal knowledge that you actually have. And if you think about these two different approaches, then if you think about the strategic analysis, where you go out and you ask your customers where do they engage, what are the reasons for their engagement, and all of these different elements, then it has typically a high agency cost. You might get it right the first time. 8 months from now when you launch your project, it will be really, really, really good. It's usually a complex project that has pretty much a long term. But if you think about this a different way, then in general, when we speak to our customers, who knows your customers better than yourself? You have sales resources that spend all their life, all their time with the customers, engaging with them. You have already purchase history. You have many years of experience from communicating to your customers. So our approach to these sort of projects is you already know your customers. You already have a lot of knowledge. You know your business, your industry better than anybody else. You have existing data of purchase history, tracking from your website or whatever it might be. And we want to address these projects in a more agile and let's get going agenda. And I think what we see from our customers in general is that you know your business, you have all the answers, and what is needed is just the ability to ask the right questions. And I think that's our position in these sort of projects. So when we think about the mapping of customer life cycles, we want to try to bring this down a little bit so it doesn't become a complex long-term project. Not said that we should not go out and do analysis and just run out and shoot left and right, which is not the way of doing this. But skipping a few theoretically right ways of doing this, and I'm going to give you some examples of that in just a second. So if we think about the first phase of getting your customer's journey mapped and getting it really out to your customers, it's the mapping phase. And the mapping phase really consists of three different elements.
One would be the standard classical define your personas and segments. We need to know which customers are we actually communicating to. I'm going to give you an example of that in just a second. Then we need to map your customer's journey. And this does not have to be, 200,000 euros of projects. I'm going to show you an example of how a customer journeys could look like, and it will probably relate to most of the people that are on this call right now. And then it's about identifying the quick wins. Once we've done this, I'm going to show you how we could build one of the quick wins. So the example I gave you before with the standardized introduction campaign, so anybody that submits to your newsletter or whatever it might be the first time. And I'm going to also show you how can we actually implement that in real life. So we think about the segments and the personas. Then in general, you look at your full market potential, and I'm sure you have already divided that up into primary segments. Maybe you have the enterprise segment, maybe you have a public segment, maybe you have end users, which is families or single people or whatever it might be. So you have different segments already identified based on number of employees, revenue, industry, whatever it might be. What we need to identify are which are the personas inside that purchase buying process. Do we have a decision maker? What is the profile of that person? Do we have an influencer? What is the profile of that person? Do we have a technical sponsor? What is the profile of that person? And I think one of the things that we see customers that engage in these projects really need to be careful about, and this is where it becomes over complex, is the ambition of really making this personal, omni-channel, cross devices with 7 different personas, etc. Because you're going to get hit by the content tsunami, right? So if you think about the example we have here, so we have 4 segments with 3 different personas, gives us 12 pieces of content per touch point. So if you have, 10 touch points in the first stage of your customer lifecycle, well, that's 120 pieces of content you need to generate now. And this is where many of these projects really hit the ground and don't get up and get flying. So standard create your segments and your personas. We do that a lot with our customers. It does not have to be a massive project. And as I said before, our approach to this is much more, we are pretty sure that you know the personas that are in the buying process already. You just need to be asked the right question because you have the answers already. And that is our approach to segments and personas. I'm not going to spend a lot of time with this. We could do a 1-hour webinar on building personas itself, just to set the scene that this is a starting point for how we can build the customer lifecycle. So once we have the personas and the segments identified, we need to define the customer phases. And instead of starting from scratch with mapping up in a creative lab, why not start out with how a purchase process looks from, just about any industry. There will be changes depending on, are you a B2C company or a B2B company? The stages might be shorter or longer, but from a purchase perspective, most clients, not related to any specific industry, goes more or less through this process. So you would have an interest phase, right? So an interest phase would be, for some reason, I ended up on your website and I thought your website had some interest. Maybe I subscribed to your newsletter. So what do you want to communicate to the customer at this stage? So once they've registered the first time, we need to educate the customers around who we are as a company. I'm going to give you an example of that in just a second. But really get them to speak to you through an automated communication process. Once they start to engage in your content, coming back to your website, visiting your blog, those sort of things, then we need to get the customer to evaluate whether we could be a potential vendor for you guys. So if you were looking at Increase, us as a company, then this is where we would start to send you some reference stories about other customers where we've changed their customer life cycle, etc. Then you'll end up in a justify phase where you'd look at what is the ROI of building customer life cycle based on the Eloqua marketing automation platform. What's the cost of this? What could we actually improve? What are the KPIs and all those different things? Then you end up in a purchase, hopefully, at least. And when you end up in a purchase, well, you become a new customer. Ta-da! Welcome to Increase. And this is where you're entered into a welcome to new customers. So if you have a portal or you have a piece of software, this is where you would communicate, the best practices, and these are the features you can use, and all of this is where our support numbers is, and this is where you can get FAQs and all of those different things.
Once you've purchased the first time, we will be looking at upsell and cross-sell, creating customer loyalty. The last element would be the retention or churn prevention phase, making sure that if you have not logged into a piece of software for the last 2 weeks and you usually log in every day, well, something is wrong. Maybe we should communicate something to the customer then. So if you think about this, you can probably relate to most of this purchase process. In your case, maybe justify phase or evaluate phase is not there. Maybe it's a learn phase that's a little bit longer, but the boundaries or the framework will more or less be the same. So why not start out with something that is already in place instead of trying to design your own house from scratch, and then get out there earlier with the first engagement with the customers. Now, to be able to support that process, a number of things needs to be in place naturally. You need to have some supporting technology, and you need to have data. But with that in place, we can actually identify the first quick wins, right? Now, in the quick poll before, I asked you guys if you had an automated introduction campaign, telling the customers that subscribe to your newsletter, to whatever element it might be, if you have that implemented already. And you think about that, that's the first quick win. That's way up in the start of the contact. Well, you could have quick wins in the learn phase or in the evaluation phase or the new customer phase. There are plenty of places where we, based on this framework we have now, could identify quick wins that could get implemented within days and weeks instead of months and years. Okay? So to give you an example of how we could design and implement one of the quick wins, then as I said before, this should be adjusted to your own business naturally, should be the framework of where you have your quick wins. So quick wins could be first registration. That's the one I'm going to give you an example about in just a second. The second one would be company introduction, right? So first you've been introduced to our newsletters, etc. Well, maybe we want to introduce you to the services we have in general and the business needs that we solve for our customers, etc. Could also be the evaluate nurture. So in this stage, so you've engaged to our content, you've engaged in different things, so you start to evaluate if Increase could be a potential supplier for you guys. Well, in that stage, we want to send you reference stories. Why not automate that communication process? And based on simple information that if you have responded to the learn phase and a little bit of lead scoring, well, we want to put you into a specific campaign that sends you specific communications, etc. So there are plenty of quick wins that can be implemented. And to give you an example of how we work with these different stages, then first of all, we do usually a one-day workshop to identify high-level framework for your customer lifecycle. So we start out with the framework we have here, ask the right questions so we can adapt it to your specific needs, and end up with your landscape of where your quick wins are to really get customer lifecycle communication on the road instead of on the paper. So the way we do that is when we first identified the first quick wins, which could be in this case, and I'm just going to use this as an example, your first registration. So I just signed up to a newsletter and I get a confirmation, thank you for submitting to our newsletter, then what should actually happen? So in this case, we have a tool that we use to mapping out these different stages. So there's a number of questions we should be asking ourselves. First of all, what is actually the purpose of this stage? So in this case, if you think about it from our perspective, now we do customer lifecycle communication projects and support that with technology. So for us, the purpose of this first stage is to get prospects to engage further in our content and to investigate who we actually are. So you might have signed up, maybe you saw something on an AdWords or you joined this webinar, but we want you to engage more in some of the inspiring content that we do on our blog, for instance. So for us, the main goal of this stage is to get you guys to enter into one of our two introduction flows. I'm going to give you an example of that in just a second. We've identified the customer's pain and needs, and the message we want to deliver is that marketing automation solves more than 10 different business needs, but you must experience it yourself. The reason we have that as our message, what we want to communicate to our customers, is that during the many years we've worked with this, is that we've explained, on PowerPoint and webinars like we have today, what is marketing automation actually? What is personalization actually? What is customer lifecycle communication actually?
But the best way of seeing this is really, making it, seeing it yourself in your own inbox or in your own communication. So we have a introduction campaign which we call Show and Tell, which is where you can experience marketing automation in live work, where we can show you, how personalization actually works, social sign-on, all of those different elements. So in that case, we have, for that stage, we've identified a simple flow, which is a segment feeder for starters. So you submit to our newsletter, and this segment, I'm going to show you that live in the platform in just a second, will monitor based on contact created date. That's the only data field we need right now. Contact created date. If you have been created within the last hour, you're going to automatically be put into this campaign. Okay? That's the technology behind it, handling that. So once you've done that, we're going to wait for 4 hours. Then we're going to send you a welcome email. That's going to be sent from David, actually. So it's his email address. It might even be text only. It says, "Dear Lasse, I can see you've responded, submitted to our newsletter. Thank you very much. We look forward to sending you inspiring news. By the way, we have a fantastic blog. You feel free to enter that. Here's our latest blog." That's naturally automated and personalized. So we monitor if you've responded to that. If you have not responded, we're going to send you a reminder. And if you have responded, we're going to wait 2 days, not to over-communicate to you. And then we're going to introduce you to our Show It campaign, which is the campaign I told you about before, where you can experience marketing automation and personalization directly in your own inbox. Okay? So if you don't sign up for that yet, then we're going to monitor that, and you don't sign up. We're going to try to send you to our other introduction campaign, which is our marketing maturity assessment activity, where we show you a lot of videos and different stuff. And then again, we're going to monitor if you signed up. And if you did not sign up, we're going to send you reminders that, "Dear Lasse, we send you these 2 different campaigns. And we see you haven't signed up. It's really interesting, blah, blah, blah. Please feel free to sign up here." Now, if you don't respond to any of these communications, okay, we then conclude, okay, you're not in the market right now, so we don't want to send you to sales. We don't want to over-communicate you and get you to unsubscribe to our lists. So what we will do is we're going to send you into our long-term nurture. As I cut the picture off a little bit here. It's the same one on this one. We have a campaign that's called long-term nurture, which sends you an email every 3 weeks with different information and inspiring content, maybe the new Gartner Magic Quadrant with customer lifecycle platforms or whatever it might be. So we keep you in the loop until you start to respond, okay? So that's the simple example of how we could introduce our customers first time they register. So this is, very simple flow, but it doesn't have to be the introduction campaign, which is just an easy way of starting. It could be abandoned basket, or churn prevention, or loyalty, or if you sell software where you have a free trial, it could be the free trial program or referral programs, or if you have a membership club. First time I sign up to a membership, how do I get the most value out of this membership? It doesn't have to be only mail. In this case, I just did a mail communication. It might as well be direct mail, mobile, social, personalization of your website, or pushing personalized messages to display ads on whatever media it might be the right one. So based on this simple flow, we start to map out the different touch points. So touch point 1, 106.1, which is the first communication up here, 106.1. That's the, wrong way. There we go. That is the welcome email. So we have that here. After email 1 send, we're going to send you a message. It's going to be, "Welcome, we're happy to have you on board, blah, blah, blah." The data we need is the contact created date, and we're going to do some personalization based on the segment profile. As I mentioned before, in this example, we had 4 segments. So based on your company size, we will automatically put you into segment A. That might be enterprise customers, and the message you will get is aligned with enterprise customers then. So that's a way of mapping the content and the data you need and the personalization you need for the different touch points. So pretty easy way. Identify your segment and personas. Map your customer lifecycle based on a framework that fits 80% of all customers. And then identify your quick wins, so we can really just take the first one. You just registered for a newsletter for the first time. Let's get you engaged in our company, tell you about who we are and what we do, and let's align you with one of the real
assets that we have in our company, which is the assessment flow or the show it, don't tell it flow. So to give you guys an example of how we could implement this also, just going to switch to the technology behind this, so you can see that this is not only spreadsheets and PowerPoints, it's also pretty straightforward to implement. So this is the front page of the Eloqua platform, which is the marketing automation platform that we use, we specialized ourselves in. Up here we can build campaigns, so I'm just going to create a blank campaign from scratch. And to give you guys a little bit of feel of the platform, now this is what we call the campaign canvas, and from here we design all the communication flows. So the flow I had before from a Visio drawing or whiteboard drawing, I can actually map that flow directly in the platform. So let's say I want to put the segment in, drag and drop that element in, and we said, okay, after 4 hours, I want to send the first email, right? So we're going to put in a waiting step. So we're going to connect those two, and I think we said 4 hours. We're going to put 4 hours, and then we're going to send the first email, which was the welcome email. I think it was 106.1, right? This is our first email. Then we want to check if you responded to that email. So in that email, we will have communication around our blog. So we're going to check if you actually clicked on that email in our blog. And if you did not, then we wanted to send you a reminder, I think. So we're going to send you a reminder email for that content. We're going to do like this. We're going to call it reminder. All right? So if you actually engaged in this, well, we wanted to wait 2 days. We're going to wait 2 days. So we're going to put that down here. And we're going to say, whoops, here we go. Wait 2 days, not hours, but we're going to wait 2 days. And then we're going to send you the email, which would have the introduction to our show it, don't tell it, right? Intro to show, show, don't tell, right? And I think what we did here is we wanted to check if you still didn't respond. I wanted to move you into the long-term nurture campaign, right? So we check here again. If you're going to put it here, if you responded to this email, then we're going to put you over here to the waiting step. And if you did not respond to that email, then we wanted to put you into the long-term nurture, right? So we're going to use the one that's called move to campaign. And if you didn't respond, I'm going to put you into this one. I'm going to double click, and then I've cheated a little bit already. So I'm going to take the long-term nurture, which is this campaign here, and I'm going to put you into the first email in that campaign, right? So I hope you get a feel of how easy it actually is to map this, these customer life cycles out. Now, the only thing you need to do now is actually to configure the emails and the segments, or if it was SMSs you would to send out, just to show you that it doesn't have to be email. So instead of sending an email here, then maybe we wanted to send an SMS instead. So we put in send cloud connector, click to this one, and we'll pick up the SMS send out instead. So now we're going to send you an SMS instead, or we could push you to a offline communication or whatever it might be. So as I said before, the only thing you need to do now is actually to configure the emails and the landing pages. Now, email editors are, as in anything, any other platform, standard drag and drop emails. You don't need to engage in a lot of complex elements. Also for the segmentation, so you see you have the option here of creating a segment where we add members regularly until the campaign is deactivated, right? So let's try to make this segment as the last element before we finish off. So we create a new segment that's called created date today, and we're going to create that. It's going to open up another window for us where we have access to the Eloqua segmentation engine. So this is based on all the purchase history that we would have, but also the digital tracking. So in this platform, we track any behavior from individuals. So I can now create a segment. Let's say we want to do the segment with created date. So we drag in a contact field, click on that, and we say contact created, date created is the name of that. Date created we could say on, we could say within last, for instance. That's probably better. Within the last day or within the last hour, for instance. If you have been created within the last hour, I'm going to put you into this specific nurture. See, I've just saved this, and it tells me right now there's one contact in our database that's been created within the last hour. And just to see if we get some information on that, yeah, it's just pulling it in. So in that case, I'll leave that. We're back at our campaign canvas. We have configured our segment, and from now on, once I activate this campaign, then it's going to put in contacts that are created within the last day. They're automatically going to be fed into this campaign, because on this configuration page, I said, okay, add members regularly until the campaign is deactivated. So just to give you guys a sense of, these sort of projects does not have to be, over complex. We can do the mapping based on standard best practice elements. Design the quick wins does not have to be complex. Just by having a well thought out introduction to customers that sign up for your newsletters will be a massive impact on your customers, because today I could see that 80% of you guys have a little bit, or some have nothing, right? So it doesn't really take that much to think these things through. So I hope you got a view of how we could map this up, design the quick wins, and also how you can enable this with platforms like the Eloqua platform from Oracle, which is the platform we specialized ourselves in. Okay, so I think to sum this up, just want to leave you guys with one really busy slide. It's not the best design, but it really gives a view of, if you think about the purchase process of our customers, then we've done a lot of these things with our customers in general, and have built in-a-box setups and campaigns. So the welcome flow in a box, engagement flow in a box, onboarding, cross-selling in a box, could be unsubscribe or my page profiles in a box. It doesn't have to be something we think out from, think through from a creative workshop that's going to take us a ton of time. So the way we do this is we have a workshop which is called Customer Lifecycle Workshop. It's a one-day mapping workshop which is based on the best practices that we have. The result out of this will be your own customer lifecycle framework in a report that that documents this is how you could be communicating your customer lifecycle, and also with the quick wins that we would identify. You will get access to the tools like I showed you before that we use for mapping out the touch points and the messages, and also an analysis that shows you, based on your current infrastructure, what are you actually able to enable? That sounds a little bit strange, able to enable. But what are you actually able to execute based on the infrastructure you have today, or would you be eligible to looking at something like Eloqua and the platform I just showed you a second ago? So for those of you that find this an interesting approach, feel free to reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to engage in a call or something like that to tell you more about how this could work for you. And if nothing else, and I hope you guys got a feel of customer experience, customer life cycle. Does it have to be complex and long term, or can we get going with this on a much more shorter scale? At least that was the ambition for us. Last thing I want to leave you guys with is we have our showcase. Sorry, sorry guys. We have our showcase, as I mentioned before, where we can show you how personalization and automation can really work for you guys. So go to marketingincrease.com and /showcase and sign up for the showcase flow, and you'll see how an introduction flow like this actually works. Okay, so feel free to engage in that. With that said, 6 minutes over the hour. I'm sorry to have stolen 6 minutes more than I was allowed to. David, next time we need 15 minutes more. But if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to stay online, and feel free to ask any questions, and also naturally comment on the content that we have shown you guys today. Relevant, not relevant, those sort of different things. And if nothing else, I hope you guys will have a fantastic day. And thank you very much for joining this high-speed webinar today.